Hi there. In this lecture, we see Capablanca playing against Rudolf Spielmann. This is in the 1927 New York tournament, round 13. D4 from Capablanca. We have D5 from Spielmann. Knight F3, E6, C4, Knight D7, Knight C3, Knight G F6, Bishop G5, Bishop B4, C takes D5, E takes D5, now Queen A4. Black volunteers the dark square bishop. So bishop takes B, C3, B takes, black castles, E3, C5, bishop D3, which tempts black to play a committal pawn move, C4. This is potentially shaky. With black's pawns like this, if white later plays E4, it can often undermine this pawn chain. It's something to bear in mind. But sometimes black can get a lock on the E4 square and slow down any E4 plan. It's interesting. Queen E7, so Capablanca castles, and now here A6. Believe it or not, this is actually a kind of mistake, it seems, in this position. hard to imagine why this is a mistake, but bear in mind, okay, white has the bishop pair and the potential to undermine with E4 later. If H6 instead, just to show H6 has something going for it to make use of, for example, the E4 square like this position, it looks as though, well, hold on, the pawns are a wreck here. There's knight B6 though, and that's important. The knight's held by the pawn on A7, and then black can even think of playing aggressively with F5. This is a totally different turn of events. And here the queen is tied down to E3, so that's unwise to take on B7. If black gets in like this position, it's a small edge for white, but nothing more. With A6, it weakens B6, and now rook Fe1. The undermining is on the way. We have queen E6, and now knight D2. The E4 undermining is really on the way for this pawn chain, black's pawn chain. We have B5. Now a really annoying move here is played queen A5. We have knight E4, knight takes E4, D takes E4. Has this actually solved black's problems? We have A4, and now queen D5. So it seems as though, well, is this solving things? You know, this bishop's going to move somewhere, then black has a chance to, for example, move the rook if the bishop moves somewhere. Okay, and that would unpin the A pawn moving the rook. You know, so imagine bishop H4. The removes like rook B8, perhaps, and this is like tenable. It seems tenable. Just about. You know, if bishop G3, there's rook B6. It does seem tenable. But this is Capablanca we're talking about. Another move, instead of, before we even get into queen D5, if rook B8, straight off the bat, bishop F4, rook B6 here, you can see that black's holding the pawn chain for a moment. But D5 and bishop takes E4 gives advantage to white in any case. Yeah, it does get like kind of scary, some of this stuff. So if rook EB1, you know, this position is also kind of scary for black. The commitment to the pawns, yeah, the black pieces are kind of working hard to hold these pawns around the place. But anyway, so queen D5, what would you play here for 2,500 points? This is a record number of points. 2,500 points. This game has affected my brain. I'll give you a clue, okay, or maybe I'm not. Pause the video, try and work out what you can play and what does it represent conceptually, because this kind of thing is like, you know, a samurai swordsman just cutting through the noise of a battle and just elegantly just finishing things. This is unbelievable what happens here. 2,500 points, I'd urge pausing the video and analysing this position and seeing what elements of the combination make it amazing, both technically and kind of more theoretically. Okay, I'm about to reveal A takes B5. There's a great deal of undermining potential associated with this move, and there's a great deal of pass pawn potential as well associated with this move. Okay, you might think, well, you know, the bishop drops. So I hope you've calculated that actually weakness of the last move is neglected E4. No, not like that. We take on E4, and what happens is we've got 2 pawns so far for the bishop. Rook B8 is played. The hilarious thing here, if Rook A7, guess what we can play here? There's actually unprotected pieces here, which cause a source of like magic. Yeah, we can play B6 here, hitting the queen and hitting the rook, limiting black's replies. If queen takes A5, guess what we play here? Forget about automatic recaptures. You know, there might be stronger options. There's definitely a stronger option here. B takes A7, threatening to queen. If queen takes C3, we just queen with advantage. And if queen takes A1, rook takes A1, knight B6, what would be the strongest here? Yeah, we have rook B1, nudging that knight, and then we're going to queen. It's completely crushing any rook A7. So basically, rook B8 is played. And now B takes A6, strong outside pass pawn, and a bishop. And I asked, you know, what does this kind of represent? This kind of combination. Can it just be called a simplifying combination? I don't think that does justice to it. I think it's like more of a winning simplifying combination. And so you've taken the noise of a battle, the complexity, and you kind of press the button to win. It's like a winning button. And, you know, unlike computers, it doesn't matter if we win in 50 moves or 10 moves. You know, there's no bonus points for winning a game more concisely. This is just a winning, simplifying combination. You know, sometimes Capablanca is simplifying to winning endgames in general, and there's quite a lot of battle after that. But this is going to be a quick one with this passed A pawn on A6 and hitting the queen. So we have rook B5, so shielding queen, hitting white's queen, but queen C7. And now knight B6 is played. If bishop takes A6, yeah, we're just going to take on A6. This position is just great for us. We can even come back with queen G3. If we want to parry rook takes F3, queen G3 is nice. And it's absolutely a winning position. So knight B6 is tried. A7. Bishop H3. The bishop protects G2. It's not really an issue at the moment. Rook EB1. Queening is also, you know, possible. This is also a winning position. Yeah. So it's all good, but this is even more accurate. Rook EB1. Just get rid of these pieces that are trying to stop queening. Rook takes. Rook takes. We have F5. If knight A8, we're just going to take on A8 and play rook B8 check. This is absolutely going to be winning. So F5, bishop F3, F4, and what can we do here? Are we worried? Yeah, just take on F4. Black resigned. Move 26. Yeah. This is why I'm pointing out why A6 might be a mistake. You might have found that quite mysterious. But I had to use the perks of the position, the E4 square, and, you know, having pawn on A7 could have been useful for, you know, for knight B6, you know, supported by the pawn. So yeah, this position, you know, rook takes F4, you know, rook takes B6. This is too slow, you know, the rook B8 check is going to drag the rook back, and then, you know, queening. Everything's too slow, basically. If queen G6, rook takes B6. Okay, the queen can try and cause trouble. We're going to take here to give ourselves G2 if needed. There's no problem. If queen takes F4, yeah, we can just take the queens off, and then rook takes B6. And then we can even take there. A wonderful game. Capablanca just pressed the button to win. A winning sim-defying combination. It's shocking, isn't it? This combination here. It's good to entertain this stuff. Would we, entertain this stuff? There needs to be some signals for us to follow through on this outrageous move. So the signals: passed pawn, unprotected pieces, well, especially undermining operations, winning lots of pawns for the piece justifies things, and we have to look at the passed pawn potential. The bishop's also controlling the target, destination of the passed pawn. So a7 is kind of lethal if the queen moved anywhere. A7 looks absolutely lethal. So, wow, what a game. What a game, this passed pawn supported by the bishop. And the bishop's also, holding g2. Very useful bishop on that diagonal. Wow, I hope you enjoyed that one and are inspired in your own games to find winning simplifying combinations, taking the noise of complexity out of the equations of the chessboard and just winning. Okay, thanks so much.